What's up, CHFFL? Welcome to the first round of previews for the 2022 season. We're going to start off by hitting Max, last year's champion, Mark, one of the top contenders in his conference, and Banas, last year's runner-up. Before we get into it, a quick look at the numbers for the league. We're going to be talking about a traditional VC value calculation and the new adjusted VC, which I talked about in my last video. Link will be popping up. If you didn't get a chance to see that, AVC is hopefully a more accurate way to predict how well teams can do during the year. VC average for the league was 288, and the AVC average was 266, to give you an idea of where teams stand as we go through these previews. Starting with Max. If you didn't see his pick that just happened with Grant that made me adjust all of my slides, Max traded his first and a 15th for Grant's third and fifth. Now, he needed to pick up a fifth to keep Michael Pittman, but I have to think there was a way to do this without giving up his first. I think it hurts him. Technically, both of his VC and AVC, they both rose, but they would have in a different trade. Maybe if he traded his 6th and 7th for a 5th and a 15th, something like that. But anyway, this is where we are with him. He has no 4 and no first. Otherwise, everything is pretty much where you'd expect it. Looking at Max's keepers, Justin Herbert seems like an easy one. He can be kept in round 6, and his ECR and Fantasy Pros PPR ranking 43. Deebo Samuel is a good possibility, I think, at the end of the second. ECR has him at 26. He'd be kept at pick 23, so he would be behind, but with keeper value shift, I think Deebo is a good choice there. Max now could keep Scary Terry if he really likes him in the third round as well. Michael Pittman along with Herbert is the other obvious one, especially after making the trade. And if Max doesn't like keeping Deebo or Scary Terry, he could keep Gabe Davis, would be absolutely fine in the 8th round to give him some deeper wide receiver value. Max's VC and AVC both come in at last in the league at around 195 and 185 respectively. And in summary is awful picks, no first round. I like to think that over the years I've taught you guys some things, and one is that your first round pick, your higher picks are very, very more valuable than they may seem to add up with later picks. Anyway, he has decent keepers. Got Pittman, if you keep one of McLaurin or Samuel, and then a good quarterback in Herbert, that's not too bad, but what about running back? So he's not going to get a first round running back. I had him pegged in to get one of those top 7. Could have gotten a Dalvin Cook or a Joe Mixon type. Now is he going in the third, the second or third, I guess, depending on whether he keeps Deebo or McLaurin? I just don't know how this team is going to end up looking. Max not only goes last in my tier rankings, he's down in his own special little wasteland category in the D rank. Let's look at some brighter news and take a peek at Mark's preview for this year. Mark picks 10th overall, which does put him in a bit of an awkward spot. He's thought about maybe trading out of it. He could also keep DeAndre Swift there, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. His board mostly looks normal, although with that big 4-team trade that happened a couple weeks ago, he was able to move up in some rounds to his advantage. Mark has very nice keepers, particularly at wide receiver, and this is going to set a storyline for this offseason leading into our draft. Mark has Jamar Chase and Cooper Kupp. Chase can be kept in round 7, one of the best keepers this year by a good stretch, along with Swan's Justin Jefferson. Cooper Kupp at the end of round 2 is also very nice. ECR has him at 7, but I think it's reasonable for him to go as high as 2 in PPR drafts. Mike Gesicki, probably not a keeper. Michael Thomas, I think, probably going to end up being Mark's keeper since he hasn't seemed happy with DeAndre Swift at 10 overall, which is borderline for him. Michael Thomas had good injury news throughout the offseason, so I expect his ECR to be rising as we head into the draft, and that will probably end up being good. Give Mark 3 receivers, but Swift is still an option at the end of the first, especially if he could trade down with Marty or Minnie. Mark's VC comes in at 4th in the league at 308, AVC 287, also 4th in the league, looking very strong this year with neutral pick spread. 2 top wide receivers already is just, I don't know that I can remember a team that's had so dominant a start at one position. So that's going to be very interesting as teams try to play catch up to Mark's receivers, particularly in his division. I'm putting Mark in the A- tier. It stinks for him that he's a little bit late in the first round, and his running back position is going to be a little weak, but Mark should have no problem making the playoffs in the MAGA conference. Finally, last preview for this video, Banas, last year's runner-up, pick 8 just got a little more enticing for him because I imagine Grant is not going to take 2 running backs in the first round. And Banas is going to want a running back, a good one, to fall to him at 8. 2, 3, 4, all normal. He has 2 6th-round picks for keeper considerations and then no 7th, part of that 4-team trade discussed earlier. Everything else, pretty normal. Banas, like Mark, is going to be keeping strong receivers and a very strong tight end. A.J. Brown, keeping round 4. Very strong. ECR has him at 29. One of those borderline wide receiver ones this year with the team change. Mark Andrews can be kept in the 6th. Very valuable. Would love to trade a 5th-round pick for Mark Andrews. ECR has him at 19, a top 20 option. T. Higgins can be kept in round 6 as well. This is why he made the 4-team trade. ECR has him at 27, a top 12 wide receiver. So Banas' pass catchers are going to be very good this year. Hoping now with the Grant Max trade that he can snag a good running back at 8th overall. VC 284 puts him at 7. AVC 267, a little better at AVC. And what that tells you is that somebody has good keepers, because VC doesn't account for the value shift that weakens draft picks. So if you have a better AVC than your VC, it means you have good keepers. I like Banas' outlook a lot this season, even though he is missing a 5th. With the 3 top 30 keepers boosted by the pick trade, he has a good outlook. I have Banas as a B+ this year and a borderline playoff team. At the end of the day, you're going to see that I do predict him to make the playoffs. But that does it for this first round of previews. We'll see you very soon with the next 3 teams. Bye.